I have a microphone. This is really weird for me, so I apologize. Before I get started on my presentation, I'll get it locked up here in a minute. Is Morgan here? Morgan, is he here yet? Okay, he is not here. One of the reasons I wanted to bring that up was, one of the reasons I love this conference is the mix that educators we get with the industry. Tomorrow you're going to see an outstanding presentation from Andy, please raise your hand, from two of Andy's students at Mansfield University. That's right, if you take a look at your thing, the awards were won by Mansfield and IUP. State system still rules. Okay? So, but there are some exciting things happening at your schools, at your colleges, and your universities. Please tap into that and help us help your future employees, which will then help Andy and I retire, because they'll have to pay higher Social Security taxes, and that's really what this is all about. So, okay. There we go. This is the problem when you don't bring your glasses up here. All right. Sorry, I can't. I'm going to need my glasses. I got you.
I mean, I'll get you glasses.
It's a little fuzzy. This is. Thank you. All right. So I have probably one of the weirdest presentations you're going to see, and hopefully it's not the worst you're going to see. But it is a combination of three institutions. Obviously, my institution, the California University of Pennsylvania. I like that. I sort of felt like I should have a Heisman or something with that. Next is the GeoTech Center. For those of you who don't know, the GeoTech Center is a National Science Foundation center, or a funded center, that tries to bring geospatial technology into community colleges. All right, so what the hell is CalU doing with a bunch of community colleges? Well, that's that interaction between community colleges and four-year schools. And one of the things that they work on is something called the geospatial technician competency model we're going to talk about. And finally, I've got PA View. I'm the co-director of PA View. We are sort of, how many of you know like space grant, things like that? You guys have heard of those things? All right, same type of thing. It's USGS, getting imagery out, state supported. So, and my presentation is going to take a look at all of these. So, first off, how many of you have heard of the geospatial technician competency model? Raise your hands. Anybody? All right, so a couple of people. Ladies and gentlemen, the Department of Labor has known for a while that our discipline rocks. Okay, we are the third fastest job creation industry in the country. Nano, bio, geospatial. That's it, that's the list. However, they cannot define us. And that may not be a bad thing, but it is in reference to how do we write federal job descriptions. And so the Department of Labor came out and really wanted this competency model built. And it went through a whole bunch of reiterations, and there's a whole big aspect to this. Number one, for some of you who may, here's a nice little bit of prior work. This is one that many of you guys have all heard of, the body of knowledge, right? If you have insomnia, get the body of knowledge. It will put you to sleep very quickly. It is a very dense, am I right, dense, Andy? Is that how we want to call it? We'll use dense, that sounds like a nice word. A dense model that says everything that's possible about the geospatial technology discipline. Well, let's get real here. People don't write job descriptions on that. They write job descriptions on your skills, on your knowledge sets, and what you have. So what was done was, and again, there's a long, convoluted history, but the GeoTech Center came out and said, we can do this for you. So what they ended up doing was they gathered a whole bunch of information, and they said, we think this is what a geospatial technician does. And they got all these lists of skills in this knowledge area. Now, normally for the federal government, that would be enough, and that would be the end of the story. But the GeoTech Center took it a little further. They said, you know what? Let's make sure this is actually right. So a guy by the name of Joe Johnson went all over the country, had 7 or 8 different workshops where he talked to people who were classified as the geospatial technician and said, you do this? No? Okay. How about you? Okay. They do, that's 50%. And did this whole big collaboration of coming together and said, these are the skills that you need. These are the knowledge areas for the geospatial technician. Now there's a different for an analyst, there's different for a manager. So, what it tried to do was take us a very interdisciplinary subject. I mean, it doesn't matter where you guys are, and I guarantee you, if I surveyed this audience, and my presentation is probably so bad, we might as well waste the time doing that, is saying, where'd you get your degree? How'd you learn EnerGIS? Somebody may say biology, urban planning, sociology, geography. All right, we're all over the map. We are the world from Lionel Richie and Michael Jackson's song. And we bring these competency in cores, but how do we put that all under one umbrella? This is what the competency model tried to do, all right? It's different tiers. And one of the things I really wanted to do was say, all right, I want to attach those tiers to lessons. Not for you guys, because when I go through these tiers, you're going to be like, yeah, I know that. John's over there, he's going, yeah, keep it up, Mueller, keep it up. We already know all this stuff, all right? But for the students' sake, because when you tell students, hey, this is what the federal government is saying, your job is going to be like, these are the things you need to know. Because they always think, well, GIS, if I know how to punch a button or I know how to read a map, I'm pretty good. But there's some other things, like personal effectiveness. Are you dependent? Can I trust you? Are you going to go for those life learning skills? That's what Tier 1's all about. Tier 2, can you write? Can you read? Can you give oral communications? Tier 3, workplace competencies. What are these? These are teamwork, group work. I'm going to talk about this in a minute. Then we start to get into the topical stuff, all right? Then we're sort of industry-wide of geography and earth science, and then we get in industry-specific. Things like, are you into software development? Or are you into data acquisition? And then you start to build on those. So what I tried to do with some of my lessons is I wanted to get to students early. And I'm building something right now for a 100-level class in which that is the hope, the dreams, everything. And it has to do with pipelines, because as you guys all know, these are things that students react to. They understand pipelines. They're in their backyard, and there's discussions about that. And if I can get them to spatially think, my job's done. Because let's get real here, folks. I don't know if you realize this. Our country, when it comes to spatial thinking, stink. We're lousy. We're like below Nigeria lousy when it comes to the roster. Okay, a developing world country is better than the United States when it comes to spatial thinking. So we need to attack this, get it to them. So for example, Peter Gomez, somebody I met at a conference, we talked about pipelines. He taught me about what the different classes are and some of the lingo that we have to bring in. So I looked at pictometry and looked at those high consequence areas, those rules that are set up. So what I did, or what the goal of this is, students will have to get in groups. Oh, the dreaded group work. What are you doing to me, Dr. Mueller? Well, what I tell them is, if you don't like group work, this is what I need you to do. Graduate, get a plane ticket to Chile. Off the plane, just walk south. And when you hit water, get on a ship. Get on the ship, go to Antarctica. There you go. You won't have to worry about dealing with groups. Because that's what reality is. People are going to work together. So they have to get in groups, and they have to read some assignments. So now we're talking about reading. Now we're talking about writing. Now we're talking about critical thinking. And then let's have them use, I know it's not called Pictometry Online, but it's now Connect. But for me, it's Pictometry Online. Let's get them Google Earth on steroids. Because let's get real here. We all flowed over Google Earth because of all this great imagery. But what if this imagery, oblique imagery, students can start to take a look at things, can start to do different measurements. Again, simple measurements. I could teach this. Andy teaches this. Hit this button, blah, blah, blah. But why are you touching this button? Because if you don't know, guess what? Then that cubicle I hope you like to live in, because that's your life for the next 40 years. So we have students take a look at imagery. So for example, we know we don't draw a pipeline. Now this is obviously a ridiculous examples I'm going to be showing you, okay? This is what happens when you're a Phillies fan and you have to watch the Phillies as you're building a presentation. All right, so here you have a pipeline shooting through water. Obviously we don't want that. But okay, why don't we want that, students? And they have to get into groups and look at what the federal government says, and then start thinking about what some residents may think. What if this is your house? And that's where you're pulling your water from. Start to get them to really understand that and explain it. Then start using some of the tools. How about the distance from the houses? What do the federal guidelines say for that? Does the state have a different? I mean, federals are set for minimum, or does a company say something else? Do we deal with those situations? And then what are those analysis? What are those types that what we are dealing with? What about the elevation? Oh, changes in elevation. Well, wait a minute. The map's flat. Yeah, welcome to Western Pennsylvania, right? We don't build on the side of a hill, contrary to that latest commercial I actually just saw. I believe it was for a lawnmower. All right? But now we can talk about the changes in elevation. How will that impact? Is there going to be changes? Are you going to have some issues with that? And they can use these very simple tools. How about the height of these trees? Let's figure out the height of these trees, because if I've got a pipeline cutting through there, how much is that going to cost me if I've got to take those trees down? Because I can tell you what, I bought a new house. When I bought my first house, what's the first thing I had? I loved it because they said, oh, it's up to date. You won't have to worry anything. Within 4 months, I had to take a tree down. Let me tell you, that's expensive. So how much is that going to cost? All right, now you put into that cost factor. Now get them to discuss those situations. This just isn't this simple pipeline where we've got to worry about nuts and bolts and metal and then natural gas running through it. Now we've got to worry about clearing some areas. We've got to worry about protection. We've got to worry about all these other issues. Think about it. Think about what just happened a couple of weeks ago. These are real world incidences. We had the blow up, right, of the gas line. Students get that. That's real. They'll start to bring their own stories to that. Okay? And that's really, then, we're bringing that spatial thinking in. I mean, I can sit here, I can build a buffer. By the way, Jim, it's very nicely to build a buffer right there. That's no problem. I can do an ArcGIS, I can do a global map, I can do whatever I want. Why am I building that buffer? What's the reasoning for it? And that's hopefully where we start to get in these 100 level classes, getting students excited and then having them understand, look, it's not just you're going to be a biologist, you better know every freaking thing about the great white shark. Okay? Because and again, I'm old enough to remember this, as in Jaws they say they actually pay you to watch sharks. Unless you are unbelievably loaded, unless you just won Powerball and you didn't tell me, and if you did, you and I need to talk. We need to become best friends real quick. Then you need the other things. You need to deal in group dynamics. You need to deal with your writing skills. You need to deal with your oral communication skills. But by doing that and understanding that spatial thinking. And that's really where I think we can make these connections. So, again, real quick, real dirty, real Jersey. All right? So I want to thank California University. I want to thank AmericaView. AmericaView, again, USGS Consortium. And we do a lot. In fact, we've had some nice little projects go on. GeoTech Center. And I guess I will end with this. And I've ended it with every stinking presentation I've ever given here. To all of you business people out there, find your local college and university. Andy and I are waiting, begging. We want our students to have those real-world projects. You want them to have the real-world projects. They will make them better future employees. Then, tell Andy and I what we're doing wrong. Andy doesn't do anything wrong. Maybe tell me what I'm doing wrong.
I do.
I'll fix that. And we'll make sure you have better employees coming down the line. Thank you very much.